Hey folks, Matt Easton here, Scholar Gladiatoria, and you might be wondering, so what element of swords or weapons or history is Matt going to talk about today? Well, maybe none of those really. Tiredness can kill. What do I mean by that? Well, so for those of you who don't know, some people will know, I guess, through various of my social networks and stuff, but Lucy and I have a 1-month-old son. So we had our second child a month ago, and he's great. His name's Alfred. Yes, he is partially named after Alfred Hutton. Yes, he is partially named after Alfred the Great, but he's known to us as Alfie. He's very cute, he's very healthy, Lucy's doing well, and all of that kind of stuff. But needless to say, anybody who has either had or lived with a small baby knows that it's quite exhausting. Okay, second time I've done it, I'd kind of forgotten how exhausting it is. He's actually a pretty good baby, but I have been very, very tired recently. Incidentally, it's one of the reasons, in fact, it's the main reason why my output of videos has gone down recently. But it's coming back up again, I hope you've noticed. So tiredness can kill, and how is this relevant to this channel? Well, actually, it's hugely relevant, really, isn't it? Because we're often talking about things that can kill you and things that can kill other people. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I've got a plaster on my thumb. That's what inspired this video right now. I have just cut my thumb wide open. And only a few days ago, well, no, actually about a week or so ago, I cut my knuckle wide open. So I have boasted on my channel previously how I, certainly when I'm around the house, sometimes when I'm other places, I have a UK legal EDC, which is a Boca Plus. Is it? Yes. It's a brilliant little pocket knife, non-locking, sub 3-inch blade, blah, blah, blah. But I use it for all sorts of stuff. I use it for opening things. So you know that I deal in these things. I deal in antique swords and other such like stuff. And so therefore I'm always receiving packages and I'm always packaging things up. And in fact, sometimes it feels a bit like my life, it actually pretty much revolves around packing and unpacking things. But I can't complain too much because this is the sort of thing that I get in those packages. So I'm very, very lucky and I'm not complaining. But therefore, I use a knife. I use a knife as a tool, like not just every day, like many times in a day. Very, very useful implement. And I have boasted on my channel in the past about how I never cut myself anymore. Isn't it funny? I spend all my time waving sharp objects around and I never cut myself. Well, you know what? In the last month, I have cut myself several times. Why? Because I'm tired. And you know, it made me think, well, hold on, if you're thinking about whether you're studying historical periods of using weapons or other implements, tools, or whether you're thinking about maybe gaming, role-playing, LARPing, this kind of stuff, tiredness is a very, very major factor. And obviously we often talk about stress, maybe even PTSD, fear, anger, all of these sorts of things when we're talking about martial arts and how they affect our interpretation of fighting systems. But tiredness is a major, major factor as well. And many times when I've been on a long walk or a long bike ride or whatever, and I thought, well, you know, often when we're talking about these battles and stuff, I'm just picking up weapons and we're talking about it. But these guys, whether it's Romans or medieval people or 19th century people or 18th century people, whatever, very often they had to fight at the end of marching for a long way, marching for miles and miles, perhaps not having an awful lot of food, probably not having a good night's sleep beforehand, probably being cold, maybe wet, maybe disease-ridden. This is a massive, massive factor, and it's something that, you know, gaming, like video gaming or role-playing gaming or wargaming, often just doesn't take into consideration. I do tabletop wargaming, 19th century stuff mostly, but obviously well, not obviously, but in the past I did, you know, Games Workshop stuff, fantasy and medieval and all sorts of other stuff. And it's very rare in a gaming scenario where you go down to this kind of factor of considering, well, is that army fresh? Have they slept the night before? Is this army, have they just marched like 50 miles to get to where they are? Think about the Battle of Hastings, you know, the famous march up to Stamford Bridge and the march back south again. Yes, I know, those of you on the cutting edge of research, I know there's now a suggestion that it wasn't the same army. Very interesting topic, I might consider in another video. But nevertheless, marching a long way and then fighting, and obviously, you know, Agincourt, for example, we will talk about just the battle. We'll just talk about those, you know, few hours of battle of the Battle of Agincourt, and I know Agincourt gets more exposure than it should do historically. But one of the major features of Agincourt is that the English army was marching, was basically trying to run away. It was trying to get back to Calais, to get back to England after the successful, more or less successful siege of Harfleur, but with casualties, with wounded, with sick, with dysentery, cold, probably lack of food. you know, just in a generally bad way. So tiredness kills in many, many different ways. And even if we bring it down to an individual level, not just a battlefield or army level, government level, if we bring it down to an individual, if you're doing, say, a role-playing game, for example, if your characters are tired, they're likely to have worse judgment. That doesn't just mean cutting their thumb open. It means they might get into an argument with someone in an inn and get into a fight, which they wouldn't otherwise do. Or if they get into a fight, they might perform significantly worse than they would do normally. And I myself have experienced, most people who do HEMA have probably experienced this at some point. They've gone to a tournament and they performed very badly because they got drunk the night before, or they didn't sleep very well, or it was a long journey, they had trouble with their baggage, all this kind of stuff. And I myself have had this even with a UK event not that long ago, where I was poorly. I had a cold and I had a terrible night's sleep the night before, and I was fencing people the next day, and you know, I wasn't awful, but I was fencing people and I was thinking, like, man, this is like gaming inside someone else's body. Everything felt sluggish and slow. My reaction times were down. I couldn't lunge as deeply as normal. So when you're considering history, historical interpretation, martial arts, practicing martial arts, when you're looking at gaming, whatever type of gaming, whether it's tabletop wargaming or video gaming or whatever, or when you're writing books. I know a lot of people who write books or write, you know, fiction and, well, sometimes even history as well, but people who write fiction watch this channel and channels like mine for to try and make their material more realistic. This is a major, major factor. Okay, people often remember stress, but they don't think about tiredness and illness. You know, just minor level illness, having a cold or being a bit under the weather, having a headache. So yeah, so next time you're doing these things, remember that tiredness can kill. This isn't just an advert for pulling over when you're tired on the road, although then as well. But tiredness can kill, and it can cut your thumb open as well. Anyway, I hope you're all doing well. I'll see you really soon for another video, and give us a like and a subscribe. Spread the word, bring more people to Scholar Gladiatoria channel, and give your suggestions. As always, this is an open offer, always. Give your suggestions underneath this video for topics you'd like to see in the future. Cheers for watching. See you soon. Thanks for watching. We've got extra videos on Patreon. Please give our Facebook a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Cheers, folks.